how many people have like seen protests before or have been at protests that are organized through a lengthy legal process. But what you have basically, this part of the protest process is called staging. And so basically you have this, I'm going to call it a sort of front line, okay? And I explained this yesterday when we were shooting. Basically, you have this mechanism at the very front of the protest that is going to try to push the speaker through the crowd. And then the front of the protest is going to reciprocate what is coming from that speaker in a sort of call and respond. My point is this is how that call and respond dynamic is set up to try to control the crowd dynamic. And then you can see there's thousands of people lining up that are going to start to get to the back of this protest organization. They're basically calling the center of the street a neutral zone, so apparently no media can be in the center of the street right now, but they've been pretty kind and generous to media, honestly. Law enforcement's been pretty nice to media, so probably once they start to move the protest up Washington Boulevard, we'll be able to get back over there. Yeah, so apparently things were pretty moderate yesterday, but really the question is, will it remain moderate, or, you know, will people try to agitate the protest? Will we get to that point where there's some kind of political violence? It's really an open question. We don't have like good models for predicting political violence, that's for sure, but it doesn't seem like there's like a lot of agitators here today. I feel like there was maybe a bit more agitation and discomfort yesterday beforehand, but there's a lot of people. And one of the things that you always kind of wonder is like, will protesters try to break away from the route that's already been approved, or will groups that are unaffiliated with the core group that got its permit show up and kind of cause issues? This is like the front line of the protest, right? So you've got all the media, and I think, is this going now? I think it's actually going to move forward now. But you guys can see we're like on the ground here in Chicago. We're not far from the DNC. But the march has started. And so we're basically at the very front of it. Obviously, this is one of my camera guys, a couple of them. And there's so much traffic at the beginning, it'll start to thin out as things keep moving. But I'm going to tell you, like, a lot of people haven't seen this in action, or they get snippets in the media. So basically, I'm standing at the front of the march right now. And so as you can see, they're at the intersection. Everyone's pretty much staged, and then they're going to start heading down Washington Boulevard. I don't know the exact route, but we'll talk about it as we go. And then hopefully we'll get to talk to different folks on the way. And honestly, you know, we're on the lookout for any kinds of disruptions that might take place, or I don't know, we don't know what to expect. Yesterday was pretty calm for the most part, except on a couple of occasions, but we'll definitely see how it goes. But it is fascinating to be standing right here at the front of this. There's always like some kind of debate between media and law enforcement at certain points, because I mean, we're still talking about constitutional protections like freedom of press. So you've got all these different interests engaging here. You've got the political interest and the movement, the protest, and then you have all the media organizations that are capturing the moment for various purposes. So one thing that I would love to hear from somebody on this evening is like, so once you get a ceasefire, then what policies are you looking for at that point? Like, where does the policy go after a ceasefire? That would be an interesting question that I would love to hear an answer on. Basically, in all the kind of language or different forms of political dissent, I haven't heard anything about what the policy would look like after a ceasefire. So I definitely think that's like an important part of the conversation. Also, I think this movement has an opportunity to start to open up to a larger audience. I'm not sure what that evolution will look like, or again, like what the opposition looks like per se. This is a chant we didn't hear yesterday, but I think that the chant is shut it down, the whole damn system. Oh, what's going on right here? Okay, so this is basically how the tension starts, is you have a form of dissent or some kind of expression that tries to disrupt the core, and then people respond to that, and it creates a crowd dynamic, and we'll see if it builds up. And then the big question is, will security intervene? Excuse me. Excuse me.
Yo, why is y'all stopping? Come on.
Okay, I get it. I see the dynamic now. I see the dynamic now. This is the leader of USPCN, but these people are trying to express some form of political dissent by holding up an American flag and a black flag, and they're literally trying to hold the protest up. And so we've got a situation like literally at the front of the protest, unfortunately, which makes no sense. Gentlemen, nah, don't do it. Don't do it. Be careful.
I'm sorry.
Be careful though. Be careful. So we're literally right in the middle of this. The cops are gonna have to break it up at a certain point. That's where it gets tense. Here we go, right here. Here we go. Yep. That's what I'm talking about. So this is literally like what you're seeing on my cameras, is you're seeing how the tension builds. You're seeing how the tension builds. Law enforcement finally intervened, so what you're seeing is it break up a little bit, but we'll see how long that lasts. So basically, this is like the dynamic that you were seeing just now, is you had two people that were expressing some kind of form of political dissent. One of them was holding a black flag, the other one was holding an American flag, and what they were doing was they were trying to hold the front of the movement up. So what law enforcement did was they separated this cluster of media that clustered around all of this individual with the American flag and the black flag and whatever. They created some distance between the core protest. They created some distance between the core protest and this situation right here. And so basically, it almost got physical, and then at some point law enforcement has to decide if they want to intervene, like right here, because they need to keep the crowd moving down the street. Otherwise, it's going to get out of control, okay? And so it's a big question. How much should law enforcement intervene? And then again, this person is, this is like their version of political dissent. But they have media all over them, so obviously they're distracting the media from the protest, which I think is really maybe the aim of somebody that's kind of expressing this form of political dissent. One thing that's fascinating about this protest that I haven't seen before is holding an American flag is literally that's how you express disagreements with the core Palestinian movement. So like an American flag has become a symbol of solidarity, and that's pretty interesting. I don't know if we've seen this in other protests before. So the question is, will this break loose at some point? And that's basically what I'm wondering. Is like, will people from the core movement try to address this? Will law enforcement get involved? You know, this is how agitation starts. So when you see the combustion effect, when you see the combustion effect in these protests, this is what you're tracking. Like we're looking at it in real time, right? But you see the kind of like post hoc coverage that the media gives you, where they act like people are just fighting for the hell of it. But you can see the crowd is moving, the media is moving. The law enforcement's trying to get it back in order so they can form a line. It's working decently well, but again, like if you have agitation, it's in the best interest of the agitator to persist for as long as they can, and unless law enforcement asks them to leave. But then the question of like freedom of speech, First Amendment, peaceful assembly, et cetera, et cetera.
I already record it when he says it, send it to whatever lawyer you got.
Sorry. So I'm still trying to understand if the black flag is another one of the agitators. We know the American flag was being used as a form of agitation, but I can't figure out the black flag yet. That's a little moment of tension for you. I guess it dispersed pretty good, but we'll see how long that lasts. We're about to turn this corner here. Some of the agitators are in plain clothes and they just talk shit to people. So like maybe they just come to agitate, maybe they'll say something mean and see if they can start a fight. Or then you have like these, people that make their statements as the protests turn the corner. Like this one right here. I still don't understand the black flag yet. I'm still trying to figure that out. Demilitarize is basically what the shirt says. The saying said, "Killer Kamala, you can't hide." And then obviously the references to genocide, which are again still pretty consistent themes with what we heard previously. Yesterday, I should say. And law enforcement did a pretty good job with the kind of like intermediate intervention that they did there. You still have people yelling a little bit. But the objective earlier was literally we had one or two people that were trying to prevent the protests from moving forward. And I think the person with the American flag moved along. But that's the kind of agitation you see. This is basically like a standoff on First Amendment.
For your own safety. Stay up on the curb. Correct. That's correct. Don't be up on the curb. I don't want him to tell you again. What do you make of it?
What I make of it? What I make of it is that if we want to press in, this is my camera. If we want to press into the First Amendment, we can do that. It's just how far do we want to take it? That's the question. I get where you're coming from. He's not law enforcement. He's asking you to get out of the street, and the street's public. The street's a public roadway, so technically the street's protected by the First Amendment. That's hence why we have these protests here. So I mean, you're pretty valid, but it's like how far do you want to take it? That's always the question I kind of ask myself, and I don't know, maybe it's a simple form of political repression, so.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think someone should call the National Lawyers Guild Chicago office.
I mean, honestly, you never know. I don't know what organization he's representing, if it's like municipal security agency. He's from, okay. But maybe he's like back office, like administrative, trying to help out. I don't know. But again, if a city official or a government organization orders you to, I don't know, it's confusing. They have all these different clauses that they can use. They could say that you're trespassing. They could say that you're disturbing the peace and then escalate to other things,
Well, yes.
So,
but who do I call if I get arrested by being just on the street?
Well, if you get arrested, we're all right here. So I'm sure that would like send a ripple through all the media. I mean, there's probably a couple hundred media organizations right here, so.
Okay, well, thank you. Oh, what's your name?
Oh, Christopher Sweat.